Meeting is being live streamed.
All right, we're live. That was longer than it should have been, but okay, we're live.
No one hit the meeting button. Not before. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our Safety and Technology Committee meeting. This is the first committee meeting of the year. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 6:06 p.m. and there's a lot on the agenda. Let's see how quickly we can get through it. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I'm going to real quick just take some notes here. And I will spell check and all the other good stuff after the meeting. While that's happening, let's go ahead and start the first agenda item, which is selection of the committee chair.
I nominate Ashley Pineda.
I second.
Okay, any opposed? All right, so we'll go ahead and I will be the committee chair. Thank you.
Aye.
David's moving fast tonight. Thank you, David. All right, so that'll be me. Any volunteers for recording secretary? Don't everyone jump out all at the same time.
I nominate Carlos.
I was going to nominate Laser. Laser is perfect for that job.
If you both would like, I will do it.
There you go.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Raymond. Ms. Raymond, I believe I gave you editing access to this document already.
Okay.
You should be able to just type right into it. I will quickly take you should see it live actually, and it should be saved already real time.
Okay.
All right, so the next agenda item is developing committee charge. So this committee originally used to be, it was two separate committees. There was a safety and security committee and there was a technology committee. And I believe last year, please anybody correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe last year we decided to consolidate the two committees and we basically trimmed the security component off and wrapped it into safety and combined it with technology, and it became the Safety and Technology Committee. Last year, we had a committee charge. We basically kept with the technology one, the original charge, but we wanted to go ahead and thank you, David, for recommending that we should actually properly capture the safety component of it. So what we have on the screen right now is the recommendation, the suggestion for the committee charge. I'll go ahead and read it and let's make sure we're all in agreement or if we want to make any changes. So the purpose of this committee is to make recommendations to update the instructional technology plan based on NYSED regulations and new technology initiatives, make recommendations for new educational technology initiatives and measures of success for each initiative, make recommendations for board policies relating to equitable, safe, and responsible technology use for staff and students, make recommendations to improve systematic security measures for all software and technology platforms, and make recommendations to maintain and improve safety and security for students and staff district-wide. That committee charge makes sense to me. Does anybody have any comments?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Great idea.
Thank you, David. All right, so that said, I'll take a quick vote.
And it's,
Recommended.
Mr. Pineda, yeah.
To the board.
Yes, so we'll make this a recommendation. Anyone opposed to that? All right, so we will make this a recommendation as the committee charge for this committee, and then we will seek board approval. All right, moving right along. The next bullet point is status of technology at GCSD report. The last meeting we had was a while back, and Mr. Ramirez gave us a report, a status update. Mr. Ramirez, would you like to give one tonight?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. The update is basically that we continue the efforts to have our one-to-one Chrome device assignment for all the students ongoing. Today, we completed the distribution of Chromebooks for the first grade and also kindergarten at Leah Jackson. And this is something that we continue doing based on our plan for digital access and connectivity to the high quality materials for instruction. However, as you know, there is a back ordering in terms of devices and everything. We managed with the devices that we have, and we were able to get a first delivery that provide for all the students and the new enrollees to have new devices in our district. We still continue attending to repairs, to repowering devices that get damaged. In some cases, this happened because of the accidental damage. In some other cases, it's not accidental. So based on the contract that we have with the parents, we are looking and evaluating what we can do in terms of the insurance and a copay for those cases that will merit to have a copay and some sort of responsibility, financial responsibility for the parents. Those items will be recommendations that we will make in this committee at the time that we finish the assessment. In terms of the infrastructure, our school district has all upgraded appliances. So we are running at 750 megabytes per second right now, and a usage of about 500 Mbps. So we still have almost half of the capabilities not used, even that we are back in person instruction in the schools. Now, when I say the ability that we have in terms of the bandwidth, that means the ability for us to actually reach to content online while the students and the teachers are doing instruction in the classroom. We keep monitoring this every day, and we look at any place where we need to improve or do an upgrade or a replacement of that device. And our access points are all over the campus and every classroom, and we have strategically installed APs also in hallways to provide for more connectivity. All of this applies to district-owned devices. And this is very important because sometimes there is confusion about personal devices. Everybody comes to school and they bring their own tablets, their own phones, those devices are not controlled by the district. Therefore, they are not enrolled automatically in our connectivity. Now, we're planning for that, and we need to have that conversation in this community to see the pros and cons and how much that will affect our infrastructure and the consumption that we have for the resources. So those are basically in terms of the general devices and connectivity status of the technology in the district. We're engaged right now in doing a full evaluation of our system for security. At the time that we go into closed session, I will go in more detail about the security cameras and everything. But that's part of our regular replacement of the infrastructure of security. I'm glad that we have Mike Falcon also in this meeting, because that is something that we've been working with the business office, with our school business official, Ms. Raymond, and I look at this implementation very soon. I will turn into Diego to give an update in terms of the instructional technology. We just completed our beginning of the year assessments with iReady, and we're ready to move into providing with the tools in the classroom for instruction so the teachers can teach and we can see the progress and the measuring later in the middle of the year. Diego, do you want to give an update on that part? And also, we just recently implemented Hapara. Go ahead, Diego.
So we'll start with iReady, as we always, I'm the one to report on iReady. We finished administration of the beginning of year assessment across K-8 in conjunction working with Ms. Laura DeAndrea. And the principals, schedules were set up and administration took place. Now we're looking at early results and examining the data. Before we know it, we'll be doing middle of year as it approaches quickly as the days go by. In terms of instructional technology, we are using all our same deck of software titles that we were using last year. It's very difficult to take tools away from teachers once they get used to them and they're heavily use them across the board. Discovery Education, Nearpod, they just become just one more tool that they're very used to using, just like our ClassLink platform, our Sora platform, and so forth. So we renewed all our software titles as we had in the previous school year. We expanded some in the case of BrainPop. We renewed all our BrainPop Access, and we included all the components that BrainPop offers, including BrainPop ELL for our ENL population, as well as BrainPop Science, and then obviously grade appropriate BrainPop selections for each school. What else do I have to update on? Our new title for this year is Hapara. Hapara is one more tool, something that once it's fully rolled out, it will give teachers an enhanced level of Google integration, if you will, and to the level of giving teachers access to monitor Chromebooks while kids are in their class. So if it's an assignment is giving on a Chromebook, the teacher will be able to see students' Chromebooks just to make sure who is on task and who is not. I've seen this myself. You put a kid on iReady, they're very quick with the keyboard or the trackpad to switch tabs from the assigned task to something else. So this would give that extra layer of control and support for the teachers to be able to make sure that everybody in the classroom is on task. That is a work in progress. Training obviously will be needed, so the training schedule will need to be created and rolled out as we've done in the past.
If I may, I want to add to that one. The moment that we discussed about Hapara, we actually did it as a part of the feedback that we got from the teachers. Teachers were looking for something that will empower them to control, to do more classroom management in terms of instruction, because if you have multiple devices in the classroom, it's very easy that they get off topic, off task. So this empowers the teacher to actually see in their screen where every student is, and if they are on task and they are still following the instruction that is given by the instructor, by the teacher. And they can actually close that tab and they can actually alert the student that they are basically monitoring the progress and the engagement. So it's a very powerful tool. And we're looking at training for the teachers. It's a very seamless integration with Google. So we are not expecting to need to do much training, but if it's needed, it will be available. And we're working with Diego on a plan for that as part of our instructional technology plan and the professional development that we always prepare every year. Any
Great.
questions on these items?
Trustee Val had her hand up. Go ahead.
Sorry, going back a little bit when you were talking about the devices and the bandwidth, I'm just curious, how often is the Wi-Fi password changed each year? I do know that definitely older students get a hold of that Wi-Fi password and then use it on their personal devices. So I'm wondering how often that password has changed.
So the password is changed every year because it's embedded in the devices. And when we do the updates, we are supposed to change that password. Now, the password that currently has been created for all the devices is a very strong password. It didn't need any changes in the last, I would say, couple of years, including COVID, because COVID kind of changed everything. We were not in person. We were not in our buildings. But I see the need to change it because we provided for, we provided to the adults, we provided to the teachers, to the administrators, and sometimes it's very simple that somebody could share that information with somebody else, and then you get additional devices hooking into the connectivity and definitely, creating a drain and slowness. But we have enough bandwidth to attend to all the devices that we have in the district, all the different equipment that we use that is connected. So we don't expect to have any issues in the short term. We need to continue working on improving that connectivity, improving the security of our devices. So that is something that we will do at the next scheduled maintenance of devices when we go into the summer. There will be another change, and we will probably implement some other updates to the software and the connectivity and the security in our network.
Okay, thank you.
So I did have a follow-up question based on that. Are we considering network segmentation to segregate the traffic between guest devices and our internal devices?
So at this time, we don't have guest devices allowing in the network unless it's something that is requested by central administration. For example, a presentation by a guest speaker in a superintendent's conference day, or a guest speaker in the library or an event in school. It's normally something that has to be arranged. We have the ability to have segmentation in our network, and been having these conversations with Diego and Laser, so we can actually provide for that without affecting the regular connectivity of our devices, the ones that are district-owned. It will need to, it implies that we have to have a second layer of security, because what we're sharing is just access to the internet. We cannot provide access to our network to devices that are not district-owned that we manage.
Mhm.
So we can work on that as part of our discussions, and I'm open to hear more information.
If I can add to what you just said, without getting too technical, as part of our new MIT service, it is a project that we are going to be engaging with the support of BOCES, bring in their expertise, and set up a proper guest device authentication, if you will. We do have segmentation already in-house, and we do have MAC control on the back end. So even if our password was to be compromised, we do access control level at the MAC layer. So unknown devices will authenticate onto the Wi-Fi because it's a radio signal, but they do not get access. So we do have that control in place right now. And because we issue every device, we know MAC sequences and serial number sequences and so forth. So we can control that at that level, as well as our VLAN segmentation, without going too technical into details.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Trustee Warner?
The auditors sometimes show up and want to get access to our network, or even if not to our network, at least to the internet, so they can talk to their own software. So that would be helpful. And of course, it's audit season right now.
In those situations, we usually get contacted that they are on site, and we enable the access they need while they are on site.
So it has to be arranged.
Right.
We have a planned visit, and we want to provide the access. It can be arranged. It's no problem. It's just we don't allow it openly. It has to be some sort of layer, security layer in that.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Seems like anyone else have any questions on that one? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and proceed to the next topic here. So the next line item is status of Chromebook replacement devices in 2020 versus 2019. Obviously, there was a big push to replace devices for the pandemic. And secondly, do we have any idea how many were purchased using the ESSR1 funding?
So we have, and I don't know if Lisa wants to also jump in on this one. We actually took care of ordering way before we start the in-person learning this year. Our orders go back to May, June last year in preparation, and we just got the delivery of the order that was placed in June. That's how late these deliveries are. But we manage with the devices that we have and the devices that were returned for repairs, for updates or any kind of power up, and we redistribute those devices. We ensure that every student, new student to the district, gets a new device. The refurbished or the repair devices are reassigned to those cases where we have a situation with a device that is malfunctioning or is being damaged. The concern that we have is that the number of damaged devices is increasing, is being increasing exponentially. So we need to look at this from the perspective of procedure, policy, and enforcing the contract that we have with the parents. Our parents are our partners in instructing the children. So they sign these contracts, and they are also financially responsible for these devices. So the moment that we have this type of conversation, we're probably going to have, we want to strengthen that partnership and make this better. But at this time, our one-to-one is in full motion, and we ensure that every student has a device for instruction. And we have spare ones in schools for those cases where we have a student that probably didn't bring the device or doesn't have a device available or something, and we try to make it available for all the schools. It's an ongoing effort.
Carlos, also under the CRISA funds, the Corona Virus Act, so it went after the CARES, the ESSER,
Mhm.
Corona. We did budget money for replacement computers in that grant also.
And that was the, yeah, thank you, Ms. Raymond. And that was directed to the classroom devices. We just replaced classroom computers that are connected to the smart boards, to the interactive whiteboards. And we just got a new number of devices that are going to our elementary schools. So we continue with our replacement plan. And any funding that is available, we try to be very cognizant and you not only use our planning and our replacement plan, but also, be fiscal responsible. Try to look at the best way to implement this. Thank you, Ms. Raymond.
Trustee Val?
So, okay, so could we possibly get the statistics in the future? Just because I think when it comes to budget season, it may not make a difference this year because we are using those special federal funds, but if we could get a feel for what our normal replacement rate is, granted we're in COVID and maybe people are taking out their frustrations on their devices, I don't know. I'd also be interested to know if if we're having any issues getting devices back from graduating seniors or other students who are leaving the district.
We exercise due diligence on that and we work with the principals. So for example, there are two important aspects on this. There is an entry, which is Leah Jackson, pre-K. Pre-K receives tablets. So they are not really with Chromebooks yet. They are the little ones and they need touch screen devices. So that is a particular segment of the inventory that we keep ongoing. Those students finish and they get reassigned. And there is replacement that we have to do. We go on a 30% every year of the total assignment. 142 seats in pre-K. So we're talking about 40 devices every year that we kind of like have ready for replacement or refurbished, repower. In terms of the kindergarteners, and that's the entry point for the school district, in addition to all the other grades, that's another 146 students that come fresh, because they normally come from pre-K and also out of district. We get a number of about 119 to 120 students graduating every year. So you can see we recover those devices, we repair those devices, refresh those devices, and reassign to the other grade levels, wherever there is a replacement needed. We have about 1,300 devices that in a plan or replacement every 3 years. So if you calculate that, it's about 33% replacement every single new budget season. The advantage of having all these new funding opportunities provide us for acquire all these devices and be able to replenish faster. Now we are planning for regular season, we're planning for replenishment, and we can have all those detailed numbers for you guys and probably in another week, because we're starting budget season very soon, right, Ms. Raymond? And I appreciate that. Early is better. That way we know the numbers and we know what is needed.
So sorry. So I understand the average is 30% replacement every 3 years due to age, deterioration, whatever. Are you saying that recently our replacement rate is higher because of extra damages?
Yes.
Or just because, I mean, we're really still in that first 3-year cycle of one-to-one devices district-wide. So
right now, the first segment of devices that were part of the one-to-one were the C740s. That's the first model that we acquired, is getting to the 3rd year and they're becoming outdated. By the end of this school year, that group of devices that were purchased needs to be replaced. In our accounting, we are talking about 300 devices in total. Not all devices are broken, but they will run.
And that's where Chris, Carlos and I have been working on a replace.
You're frozen, Ms. Raymond.
Probably the rain.
For every person, right? And then in 5 years, have to replace those. We're going to provide a device for everybody, but we're going to be on a 5-year replacement plan so that we're continually rolling over. So for your example, taking the seniors, taking their computers, bringing them back and refurbishing, but buying new computers for the 9th grade so that we have spares and that we have something that flows, that there is nothing that will prevent somebody from having a device.
So you
So
cut
the
out,
stand-
you're working on that flow of replacement? Is that what?
That is correct. That is correct. And if I may add to that, the 5-year plan, the 5-year replacement plan is the standard plan. For mobile devices, we were going into a smaller window or 3 years, so we ensure that there is no outdated device out there. And like I said, we are in the 3rd year. These devices are not going to stop working. They will continue working, but we don't want to wait until that happens. You know, if there is any device that needs to be replaced because there is a broken glass, there is something that cannot be repaired, we will replace it with a new one and we will reassign. But we need to have the conversation about those that are damaged by accidental damage and those that are not accidental damage. That is one of the items that we definitely need to discuss in this committee.
So sorry, so for the next meeting, can we get a copy of the contract? I don't remember what contract I signed for my student. It'd be helpful just to get an eyeball on that at some point. Sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely, no problem.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on along to the next bullet point. So updates to the 2018 to 2021 Instructional Technology Plan. We talked about that last year, how we had to start preparing for the next cycle, right? Which is going to be 2022 to 2025. Do you want to provide an update on that, Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, so I just entered in the chat the link to the guidance provided by the state. Instructional technology planning is due this year, this incoming year. It probably will be by April. And we need to start working on that. It's a whole sequence of items that need to be in place. Part of that is our committee, because that's the way that we actually get the feedback from the stakeholder groups. And I think that I would like to probably propose to the committee that we also include feedback from the trenches, from the student body, from members of the school community that can actually provide with an input in this process. The instructional technology plan is not only the part of the technical stuff, the instructional technology resources, but also feedback on how we can make it better, how we can actually improve our attention to not only connectivity, but actually measuring the progress that we have in instruction. As you know, I work closely with curriculum instruction with Dr. Macaluso, who's our new ASI, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction. So we are here to support that. We're a school district. Our main goal is to instruct the children. So we want to continue in that route. That means, providing with more devices, providing with different type of devices, providing with connectivity in areas that we normally don't have, like public spaces or common areas, or maybe even when it comes to activities that are associated with social emotional learning or sports, like the field and everything. We want to hear from all the stakeholders, and that's part of the directive that we got from our superintendent as well. So I'm very cognizant of that, and I try to provide for all of those opportunities for input, and that will be the process. The document is shared with everybody through the chat. I will also put it in Google so we can all access it, and that basically describes everything that we need to put in place to complete the plan in time. We're on track. We're on good track to complete that update to our instructional technology plan, and I believe that we will get the most of the feedback that we need.
I'll go first and say that I have no opposition to involving students in the process. I think it's a great idea. I don't know if anyone else has any feedback.
Yes,
right.
feedback is good.
Okay.
From all stakeholders, anyone who's our customer.
Okay, thank you. So moving right along, the next piece, next bullet point, student GCSD email accounts not having access to incoming communications. If memory serves me, this one had to deal with specific communications as the students are leaving our district, I believe. Trustee Val, could you clarify?
Sure. I brought this up because last year I have a student who's in the high school. He's registered with the College Board, as are most students in junior and senior year.
Mm-hmm.
And last year during COVID, College Board was setting up virtual college fairs, but to register, the student was able to register, but to get the link to attend the fairs, College Board sends the link to the student. Now, of course, the student is required to use their GCSD email address because that's how they participate in the building with the College Board AP and other facets. But of course, you guys have the firewall. So those emails from College Board to those students to access those college fairs, to access possibly in the future their scores, to send them on to their colleges. I know we also discussed briefly, you wipe all those emails after a month, but we discussed, I know, prolonging that time. I think there's an issue that needs to be looked at. So the tools that might be available to our students and aren't reaching them can somehow reach them. I did speak myself with College Board, and there's no way to set up a second email address for a student to be able to use their personal email address. They're limited to one login because that's where all their records are kept. And I don't know if I know this is a very specific issue, but this is kind of related, and I'll throw it in here even though it's not on the agenda. The fact that when parents are attending, for example, back to school nights, we can't log into the Google Classroom because of the firewall protections unless we're on our student's account. So it's kind of related. We have great safety measures in place, but there are times when it's not helpful as far as accessing other resources.
So I appreciate the information and the feedback on this situation with the emails. The way that we set up our email service for the high school students, and I'm talking about grades 7 through 12, is that is within the domain. So basically they can email back and forth with the teachers and among themselves if they get assignments to work as a team and all of that. But I'm not sure about the restriction to get emails from the outside or get emails after they graduate. Now we can definitely look at this from the perspective of security and, in our network, but I don't see that as a concern enabling the access after they graduate for another, let's say until August, when they actually complete whatever they need to complete before getting into college, if that's the only way that they can get communications outside, from the outside of the school district, like College Board or the actual colleges. Is that what you're referring to?
Hyper specific, and maybe this isn't the right forum to discuss that, but students are only allowed to set up one email contact with the College Board. That email that they set up during class is their GCSD email. College Board will contact that student to give them invitations to attend college fairs, but those emails aren't getting through to the student because of the firewall. And then the students need access to their student account. Some students need access to their student account after graduation because those scores are sent there.
I will.
Are all the College Board things coming from the same domain?
Theoretically, but that's not, I'm not able to look into that.
So it sounds like there's two things going on potentially. Mr. Ramirez, I'm sure will look into it. So the first one is, are all the emails being sent by the College Board actually being successfully delivered to our students, right? So they can, the IT team can look to that. And then the second one is, what do we do in terms of cutting off access? When should we be cutting off access? It sounds like maybe today our process is, once the student leaves the district, it sounds like maybe it should be a conversation of how much of a grace period do we want to allow before we cut that access off. And I'm sure the IT team will look into that and come back. It looks like Mr. Rendon has his hand up.
Yeah, I want to add that maybe we can go a little more into detail on this particular item during our closed session component. And I think we can have a little bit more background info and what's actually happening there. But I think it's something for a closed session.
Understood. Thank you. All right. Any more questions on this topic, or can we move on to the next? Okay, no more. Let's keep going. The next one is emergency cards. So we know that at each one of the school buildings, right, the students and parents receive emergency cards to fill out in case of emergency, right? And I know I received them and we have to keep them updated. I know some of the parents, unfortunately, don't update it as frequently as we would like. But along those lines, in the past, we talked about potentially finding out if there was a way to submit them electronically. So we just wanted an update on that. We are at a point where we can start ensuring that parents are using this and updating it exclusively through electronic means? Do we still need the manual process? We just kind of wanted to talk through that.
So it has two components, if I may. And the first one is in terms of the emergency contact that is determined by the parents, they can update that in Home Access Center. So the Home Access Center through eSchool Plus allows the parent to submit that update. They also can do it via email to the district registrar, or they can actually contact the school. And normally what that they do, the schools get the first information and they actually relay that information to the district registrar. If there is a change in any other aspect of the demographics of the student, for example, the address, that has to be definitely addressed with the registrar, district registrar, because it has an implication for residency status. Ms. Raymond can go in more detail about that because it affects the district. But any emergency contact for the purposes of picking up the student from the school, or emergency contact for any other instance or incident with the student, it could be health related, that can be updated by the parent at any point, contacting the school, contacting the district registrar, but the district registrar is the single point of entry for those updates. So the schools normally take the information and they immediately relay that information to the registrar. That's how it's being done as a procedure. So is that also the ability of doing it in the Home Access Center, the parent portal? Any comments on that? Maybe if that is not clear, we can actually, advise our schools, make a communication to the principals, to the parents, just to refresh on that. We're coming out of COVID. A lot of people don't remember how our procedures were before, and we can refresh that and remind the parents that they have the ability to update that in Home Access Center, or they can contact the school.
Okay, Trustee Val has her hand up.
Sorry. Okay, I think there might be an issue with the families of, or the caregivers of younger students who don't regularly access parent portal home access. So what I am happy to see is on the website, if I go under parents and students, I see parent portal, and you guys have really done a great job improving the help section here with clear topics as far as how to update your contact info and listing some instructions there. So just a simple suggestion here would be, first of all, we're using two terminology. We're using parent portal and we're using home access. Let's either put both words there so we know that parent portal and home access are the same thing. And we also could put something there just saying, click here to update your address, so that they know that's where they need to click. Because until we click on parent portal, we don't know that that's where we can update our contact information. That's just one overall thing. But the more important issue is the younger parents, when they're just entering the district, have no idea about this. They're not even getting the emails to tell them to go here because their email might not be in the system yet. And I think that's where some tightening up needs to happen, at least at the beginning of each school year, when possibly paper packets get sent out at the elementary level. Or maybe just every August and September, we put something on the front page of the website saying, click here to sign up for information from the district and update your contact information. Hopefully these are simple solutions, but I do know back in August, parents were very frustrated because they weren't getting the information, and we were relying a lot on electronic means at the time. That's all I'll say about that for now. Thank you.
I took notes, and I will definitely have the conversation, because it's part of the process of registration. At that time is when the parents get all the different aspects of how they can update their information, where they need to go, who they need to email. So I think Diego has his hand up. And
yeah, I just wanted to add and clarify a couple of things here. So home access / parent portal, emergency updating information was actually an add-on as a result of online registration. So that opened the opportunity for us to be able to offer that service, where a parent through parent portal / home access center are able to update the information. The registrar is still involved. It's a multi-layer process where a parent changes information, it goes into a dashboard, reviewed by the registrar, approved, and then it goes into the student information system. So there's still a level of control and managing of information. It's just now it's online. In terms of the lower grades, I think it would be a great idea to start an awareness campaign of what Parent Portal is and what it can do. We actually have the report cards available for all parents now in Home Access Center, including the lower grades. As a result of the pandemic, that needed to be developed and implemented. So there's definitely a lot of information that's available. We do capture information as part of the registration process, and the Home Access Center Parent Portal account is generated at that point once that information goes in. So it just might be as simple as raising awareness of, yes, you also have access to this. It's not, a lot of people think that it's something for upper grades, right? When kids are in multiple classes and they move throughout the day, as opposed to a kid that's in the same homeroom all day. So there's definitely a benefit. And in terms of the emergency cards, I know that the different principals, I worked with the registrar on this. They sent out communication to parents as to what the availability was of updating emergency information. Emails went out. So I'm thinking that probably a repeat of said emails on a more regular basis to remind people, right? So sort of a marketing campaign. Every time you get 20, 30 parents at a time, by the time, if you do that 4 or 5 times a year, you'll be able to cover the entire grade. By the time they finish kindergarten and they go into first grade, it's just an automatic process because the information does not change. When you set it up and your kid moves up the grades, that Home Access Center account reflects the changes. And from the parent perspective, you remain with the same account.
So in addition to that, let's be mindful that we have 2 different periods for the report card releasing. So the first marking period release of report cards for K to 3 happens actually in December, first week. But for all the other grades, 4 to 12, it happens in the first week of November. So we are getting to that moment, and maybe it's time to remind everybody you have also access online to all the report cards for your children, blah, blah, blah. And we can partner with the principals to send those communications with the permission of the superintendent, so we can alert the parents. It's all available online. I think Laser has his hand up.
Laser, please proceed.
Yeah, I know at some point there was discussion of having a parent packet at the beginning of the school year, like a parent handbook of how to need to know kind of thing. We'd never went anywhere, but I think it's something that's probably needed yearly, like how every year we do the summer reading list and the school supply list, and we make sure we get that information out. I think that's should be part of that packet of, especially with the emergency cards. And to Chris's point, I don't think a lot of information is out there of parents knowing what to really do in a sense. But I think something like it doesn't have to be a handbook, but something as just part of the welcome back packet. Have you done this, and this? Or can you do this by September 30th, or something along those lines. But it has been discussed before.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Trustee Val?
All right, and I'll just reiterate, thank you, Diego and Laser. I'll just reiterate that when we're communicating, let's not rely just on the emails, because if we're emailing parents how to update their emails, they may well not be getting those emails, which is the problem that happened in August and September. So we need to find at least a second method to communicate to those families how to enter their correct email address in the system. Or
I think Trustee Valen is frozen. Either that or she's really good at holding still.
Yeah.
All right. I think we got the gist of it, though. Thank you, Trustee Valen. I'm sure you'll unfreeze right about when I start the next point. So let's see. Let's give it a second. All right.
You need to start talking about it and then it'll happen.
Yeah, let me start talking about it, and then I'll repeat myself. So the next bullet point was committee dates. So there are 2 conflicts already with the scheduling that we did. Oh, we lost her. Okay, so she'll join again.
Probably can't come back in.
So the first one was December 14th versus December 15th. So the 14th was a date that I found on the calendar that worked. Of course, I completely forgot that the 14th is the date that we are planning our special election for, right? So we just wanted to have a quick little conversation. Of course, I need Trustee Val as part of that conversation, and she's not here at the moment. So let's move on to the next one, and then we'll come back to that one. So the next one is March 9th. In my haste to put together dates and times and all that and try to get everyone on the same page, I completely overlooked. I have a personal conflict on March 9th, yet I went ahead and booked something for that. Isn't that funny? So that said, I think I'd like to request that we move the March 9th meeting to March 23rd. I looked at the calendar. I didn't see anything that stood out that was obvious to me, but I would like folks to consider that.
It says Woodlands IB concert, 7 p.m.
And I missed that one too.
And I'm looking at the old fashioned hard copy calendar, so I'm not sure what that is.
So, yeah.
The IB concert?
IB concert. What the heck is an IB concert?
Have an IB concert?
So
Oh.
we can provide an update in regards to the calendar, and I think that our superintendent actually took the lead on that. We're meeting monthly before the month to review and ensure that the calendar is updated. Thank you, Dr. Iverson, for that. That was very helpful, because by the time that we prepare these calendars, these printed calendars, and the time that we actually get into every month, things happen. So, events get canceled, events get added, and that's probably the best way that we are going to be able to update this district calendar. As you see in our website, on the very, very first page of the calendar, and I don't know if Laser wants to do this, but he can show you there is an actual QR code that puts you in the page where we have this updated every single week. We actually review this with the committee, with the media group, and they update this as we get the updates from the schools. Laser has been working on this. Laser, you wanna share your screen and maybe just point that out for the public that is also watching this through YouTube?
Sure.
Yes.
Hey, there's
Go ahead.
Chris.
And you can use your cell phone camera. Just put the camera on and just look at the QR code, and you will get the actual link to the web page, and you can add it to your own calendar for any events, for any activities that we have in the school district. Go ahead, Lisa. This is the first page of the regular calendar posted on our website. And you can see that it's done.
Can you see it?
Go ahead.
Can you see the screen?
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, so this was actually Miguel did this
QR code.
QR code only because the calendars has been changing and so fluid these past 2 years. So as much changes as we make to the online calendar, he tries to do it to the physical calendar in a sense, because a lot of people do refer back to this over the online. I don't know, looks better maybe.
And I got to tell you, Laser, as you were talking, I just scanned the QR code and it came up on my phone.
Yeah. So it's so whatever. So the last change he made was on September 24th. So if he does more changes to the calendar, he'll just update the date so you know the last date it was updated. Because a lot of people do rely on the this version over the digital calendar.
This is the colorful, very nicely done printed version as well. So that's
Has
why.
additional information on it.
Correct.
And for many people and for the parents and the community that are watching this through YouTube, if you go to the next page, you actually see the days for the release of report cards and important days in terms of the instructional activities in the school. So It's very helpful. We're doing our best to keep the communication with the community and to have everything updated. Thank you, Laser.
Thank you for that update. Let me reshare my screen here.
Is anyone else able to hear Ashley?
Oh, thank you. I forgot to hit unmute. You would think after
There you
2
go.
years I'd be used to it already. Sorry about that.
Yes, we can hear him.
All right, so the March 9th to March 23rd, it sounds like we're still waiting for confirmation whether that event will or will not happen. So for now, I would say let's tentatively plan for the 23rd.
Or you could do the 30th, because there's nothing listed on the 30th.
Let's see. Just gonna check the different calendars here. We could do the 30th if that works for everyone. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's plan for the 30th. All right, and then let's go back to December 14th versus December 15th. So Trustee Val, you can hear us now, right?
Yeah, sorry, my whole internet went down, so I'm on the phone now.
No worries. So we wanted just to chat about the 14th versus the 15th.
If the high school concert is still on, I cannot attend on the 15th. Unless, what time is the concert?
You want to do the 16th?
We have a different committee possibly meeting on the 16th.
Okay.
The concert begins at 7. If we do an earlier meeting,
Then we might be okay. So like a 5 o'clock meeting? Well, of course, Ashley, can you make it?
Well, can I ask you a question? Even though the vote is on the 14th, does it matter?
So that's an excellent question, Ms. Raymond. That was part of why we wanted to have the conversation, was to figure out what our role necessarily would be in that.
Who's our district clerk?
Well, you'll have to hire one by then.
Yes.
So even though the polls will be open from probably
7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah.
right, so I mean, and I don't know how many people are watching on YouTube, but even though it's the 14th, you could still have your meeting. Some of us might not be able to attend, and I'll try to, but I still think you could have your meeting.
All right, so let's do this. I don't want to take up too much time on this topic right now. So we will have a conversation about it and get back to the committee.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, the next topic, communication for change to school hours or foul weather events, especially buses on route. So let's unpack that because there's a few things going on there. So there is the first thing, which is communication for change to school hours or foul weather events. Dr. Iverson is already working on that. Dr. Iverson, you're sending out your blasts via phone and an email and all that. The only feedback I've heard from some parents is they were used to in the past receiving that communication around 5:30 a.m. So that they could appropriately modify their schedule that day. I know we're doing that a little bit later. Is it possible to do it closer to 5:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I think the blast that went out about the flood today, just anticipating if we needed to delay. I think Ivy and I looked at it and I said to Ivy, I mean, we can definitely do 5:30, but I just said, look at the trend and what time. Some of the things, some of those calls were early, some were as late as 6:15. So I did put this one for 6:15 just because I was just watching the rain, and Lisa, Frank, and Mike and I were just watching the rain this morning, just so we could I just wanted to make sure I gave it as much time before if I needed to make a decision. So sometimes, yes, we can move it up, but know that sometimes when it varies, it's for a reason other than we're waiting to see if something comes across the weather that we're anticipating. So that was the reason today. But yeah, we can certainly do that. 5:30 is for our staff as well, so that if they are delayed and or not coming because of the council, they don't get halfway en route and get the message too late, because some of them live very far. But.
Thank you. Mr. Falcone, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, Frank and I usually can get a good decision at 5:30, okay? But weather plays a big role, because sometimes, you know, sometimes I'm looking at 3 different forecasts, and not only that, but Frank is on the road, I'm on the road, and we're saying it's supposed to clear up, but it's not clearing up. So, you know, Dr. Iverson did, a great job of trying to wait a little bit, because some of our forecasts were supposed to be heavy gusts of winds. And when that happens, now you have to prolong a little bit. And other districts were doing the same thing. I was on a phone with, but we try our best. But when we can't come up with a safe, decision at 5:30, we might have to prolong it a little bit, right? Right, Frank?
Right. No later than 6:15. That's the absolute latest. But my point is, there is usually a reason when it's a little later.
Is there a group of superintendents that you consult with for some weather closures, Dr. Iverson? And if so, when do they meet?
Well, okay, let me understand what you're saying. So yes, there are a couple of superintendents I can just call and see what they're doing in their districts. But we meet monthly. In fact, I meet weekly with the group of Westchester County superintendents every Monday. So is that what you're asking me?
So there's not a weather closure conference call.
No.
Dr. Iverson, I think what he's asking is, when it's inclement weather, the surrounding school districts, what are they doing?
Yes.
So,
And we watch each other. We watch the weather. We watch the ones closest to us in proximity. And those are the superintendents that I, watch, and we kind of confer around just how, making that decision. But yeah, that's how I've done it in other states as well. Just look at your neighbor where you have traffic and kids coming from all over, and you try to align to do the same thing. But we haven't had to do that yet, because the flooding that we had on September 2nd, we all delayed. We all put in a 2-hour delay. And so, and I don't think we talked, we just all did the same thing.
So nothing that would delay the time of the call. Fine.
Okay, thank you. Now moving on to the second part of that question. The second part is specifically focused on school buses, right? So we remember maybe 3 years now, 2.5 years ago, I don't remember the exact date. We had that blitz of a snowstorm that came and really pounded everyone, and everyone got caught out there, right? It wasn't GCSD. Everyone was stuck and everyone couldn't move, and it was this huge panic, right? And we got a lot of feedback from the community, from the parents, a lot of frustration. And we had talked about making some changes to the way that we could communicate when there was something wrong with the buses, and if there was a delayed bus route, et cetera, how we could contact the families in an expedited way and figure that all out. I know that there was some feedback given. I just wanted to have an update as to whether we've made adjustments, or what are our current contingency plans?
Lisa,
I can answer that if you want,
if you could
because
begin.
they're all looking at me.
Yeah.
What we do now is since we call that the Mike Falcone debacle of the winter, because on the public record, I wanted to go home at 11 o'clock in the morning, but we're past that. What we do now is if we have a weather event, I talk to Lisa and the superintendent, and we send out a blanket notification to all parents through text, email, and phone call. The piece that I was going to raise my hand on before was, that's when we find out, the first time we use that is when we find out what you discussed about emergency cards and the information that's in the computer is wrong. So hopefully we never have to find that out this year, but last year and the year before, we instituted that after that snowstorm that we would send out a communication. As far as there being an individual bus problem, we have worked with TransFinder, and last year it worked fine. I think we used it maybe 4 times last year, year before COVID, I'm sorry, that we just send out an alert. You can pick the message you want to send with it if they're generic. And I work with Laser and I call him or I do it myself and we send that out. My only concern with that much notification is I'm sending it to everybody, but I don't know if everybody was on the bus. That's my only concern with that. Sometimes too much communications, too much, but we did use it. I had a few parents that said, why'd you call me? My kids were out sick, but that's conversation for another day. But yes, it is functional. And I'm working with TransFinder, hopefully by Monday, that they update it for this year with all the route information. So we can just click on the route and send out the text.
Trustee Valen has a question.
All right, so I just want to understand better TransFinder. You're saying that you have a system whereby you know who is scheduled to be on.
Mhm. What bus?
Yes.
You froze again.
I think you're having audio issues now.
Just an alert to the people who are scheduled on that route?
Chris,
Yeah.
can you hear me now? Because you froze a little.
Oh, no. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, what we do is in the beginning of the year, this process starts in June. We start routing the buses for the following year. We send out the bus passes, and then what we do is each driver gets a copy of their route, and at each bus stop, what kids are going to get on at that route. That's the same information that gets downloaded from TransFinder into our alert system to notify the parents.
Okay, and there's a mechanism, you're saying that the contact information you have for the parents for TransFinder is the same as we have for the emergency card. So if something's not correct in our database that parents can update or the school can update or the registrar can update, then parents, what I'm going with here is if we communicate how this works before foul weather season, sometime in November, then maybe we can put that extra urgent push to get parents to update their contact information. If it's just that one-stop shop that feeds both school communications and the transportation, the TransFinder data.
Correct. The one problem that I see, just going off the beaten path for a second, eSchool can talk to TransFinder. TransFinder is not allowed to talk to eSchool. Where if you had Infinite Campus, which I don't know if you've heard about that, they communicate back and forth. So when a parent went onto the parent portal, they could hit the transportation tab and they already know what bus their kid's going to be on with all that information, which would probably save thousands of phone calls a year. And they would see all the transportation information that they could update from there, if I'm correct, Carlos, right?
Yes, well, The one-way communication is because we want the update to happen in the student information system for consistency. So whenever the registrar gets the information, she enters in the student information system, or the school gets it and then forwards to the district registrar, is one point of entry for the information, and then that is shared with TransFinder. Obviously, integrations and synchronization between two systems is the best, is the goal that we have. As you know, it's several years that we have eSchool Plus, not a different solution like Infinite Campus, and it worked for us with some hiccups in the process, but it is functional. And I gotta say that all credit to you, you always monitor this and you bring to our attention any needs for updates or anything like that. So I believe in the system, the way that we set it up right now, to be functional, but any improvements, we should have these conversations for the future and see how much that also involves in terms of the financials, because switching student information systems is not something simple. It involves a lot.
Okay. And going back to what I was saying, then if administration decides to communicate with families and ask them to update their contact information, because then we're able to ensure notification about bad weather events, et cetera. Maybe they could take that opportunity to explain that. I don't know if you can hear me. To explain that it's going to contact those who are scheduled to be on the bus and not necessarily those who are allowed to be on the bus. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
I heard you, but I didn't understand your last piece you said.
I'm just saying, if administration decides to ask people to update their contact information, maybe they can explain that it's going to communicate who's scheduled to be on the bus and not who's actually on the bus, to avoid the problem that you had a couple times last year. That's all.
Mhm.
I agree.
I'm seeing lots of heads nodding, and I agree with that.
I would suggest that the lesson that we're learning from this experience in the past and what we're seeing right now is we periodically remind the parents to update their emergency contact information from the schools. We do it with a note in the backpack. We do it in multiple ways. Same thing that we do with School Messenger is our alert system. We can update as much as we want, but if the information is incorrect or was not updated, we cannot do it. And that's probably what Frank is trying to explain here in a nice way, but that's exactly what is happening. If it's not updated, it doesn't matter what we do to try to make it happen in the back end or with the student information system or with TransFinder. So we need to probably work a little more in terms of reminding our school community that everybody should be on task on getting this updated. And I think that, talking with central administration, we can probably make that commitment with the principals and remind the parents that they need to update that information as often as needed, because they can change those emergency contacts anytime. There is no limitation for that. They can do it directly in home access / parent portal themselves, or they can communicate it to a school, or they can communicate it directly to the registrar. Those three options they have.
Thank you. Laser, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to say for the most part, I think School Messenger is pretty updated. From what happened in the past, what I would notice is, let's say the first snowstorm, like we get a bunch of emails saying, "Oh, I didn't get that notification or text message," and it's usually after that first storm or closure or delay, those numbers get updated, and then for the rest of the season, it's fine. It's zero complaints. It's usually, oh, that's my old cell phone number, I forgot to do it. But for the past 2-3 years, yeah, that first snowstorm or delay, you get those phone calls, and then it just stops until the following year.
Got it.
I think for the most part, it is pretty updated. So.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. So it sounds like we should be sending out a blast before that first snowstorm comes, maybe like a few days before, just reminding folks, hey, you know what? If your information is not up to date, you're gonna miss out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe that'll be helpful.
Mhm.
Thank you, Laser. Mr. Ramirez, I just wanted to go back real quick to what Mr. Gunn had talked about. I think, to your point, it would be a worthwhile exercise if some time could be spent on looking into that other solution and all the things that come with it, right? It's not just a simple turn the light switch off and turn the switch on the other one and it's working. But if we can, if you guys can look into that and figure out, is that a viable option? Because I think that would be nice moving forward, if it's possible, to have a lot of that information on the front end for the parents to have, with bus information and all that. I think that would alleviate a lot of agitation that happens at the beginning of the school year for everyone, but it has to be looked into. So if that could be looked into, that would be great.
Absolutely. I'm taking notes and I'm gonna look for meeting with Frank, and maybe we just got a presentation through BOCES on this Infinite Campus and the new features that they have. I will explore that and report back to the committee, and then we can actually have the conversation about the financials and everything. So that's not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And the last agenda item we have for open session, because we're going to be going into closed session to talk about some security and safety related issues. So the last item we have for open session is cybersecurity month activities. Mr. Ramirez, would you like to give us an update on that? You're on mute, Mr. Ramirez.
I'm sorry. So as you probably noticed, we start a campaign to actually, just develop an extra layer of awareness in terms of cybersecurity, what that means, what is a phishing campaign, what is when there is ransomware, how that happens, how they get into our infrastructure through a simple email and a simple link that anybody clicks on, and then we're infected. So we've been sending emails to all users with attachments, these very helpful handouts that go from password creation, how complex a password should be, what are the most common passwords, and how many people will probably see the list and say, oh, that's my password. Oh my God, it's a very simple password that anybody can guess. And I gotta tell you, now there are algorithms, there are robot entities that are creating programs that work on passwords and create that sequence in seconds. So we gotta do better. And our goal was during this month of October, which is Cybersecurity Month, to kind of promote that awareness and promote that people look at things from the perspective of, let me check on this email. Oh, the domain name seems to be missing a letter or is misspelled. Any signs that can give you an idea that that is not a legit communication. So, and we are happy to report that we've been successful. We get feedback from teachers, from staff members all the time, and they actually send us forward emails about something that they believe that is not correct or is not legit. And we catch many of these threats before they actually get to our firewall and our filtering system. So we conducted 2 phishing campaigns last school year successfully. We got very good ratings. We discussed those in closed sessions, as you remember previously, and we are planning now on education campaigns. We want to move to the next level. As we go into the closed session, I'm going to ask Diego Rendon to go in more detail about what we've been planning already for that education campaign, because the goal is not only to test how much you are aware of the risk of clicking on a link, but at the same time, if somebody does that, to go with a video segment that will be educational for the user, and telling them, well, this link was a potential issue, and these are the reasons for that. This is the way that you prevent that, and continue on that process of education. And it will be selective, because anybody that clicks on the link will be subject to the education or the training and the education opportunity. For those that don't do it, they just get a regular email saying, you did the right thing, you didn't click on this, or something like that. We can discuss further in the closed session. But our efforts to create that awareness and prepare our staff so they are aware and ready to attend to any potential threat via email or any other electronic communication is constant, is ongoing, and is part of our technology plan.
Thank you for that update. All right, so before, I just thought of something from a logistical perspective for our public community. it might make more sense to first go to any new business. That way, if there's any new business, they can hear what that new business is. And then after that, we would basically give them the heads up that essentially we're going into closed session. And then when we come back, we're just closing the meeting. So does anybody have any new business to discuss? Okay, I see Trustee Warner had his hand up first.
Okay, basically, we have a district-wide emergent safety committee that creates our emergency management plan, and it's supposed to be updated every year. And we appoint who the head of the committee is at our July reorg meeting, and members of the committee. And the committee is supposed to have.
Trustee Warner, that's going to be covered in closed.
You want to do that?
Yeah, we have
Okay.
it already on the agenda for closed.
All right, then I don't need to get in any detail. Then I'm just looking for an update on the personnel on the committee, and so we'll discuss it in closed session. That's fine.
Perfect, thank you. And then was it Mr. Gunn? Or no, Mr. Ramirez, you had your hand up, right?
Yes, I received feedback from parents, and specifically one parent reached out to me in regards a potential, in her view, and a consideration of safety in terms of the access in the school premises for LTE connectivity for students and students that participate in after school activities and not being able to get good LTE connectivity. And that is a reality in all our campuses. This is not something that we have control, because this all actually belongs to the LTE operators, the ISPs. Verizon, AT&T, they don't have towers in this area. I know that before COVID, we were able to have a conversation with some of these operators, specifically Verizon, that works with us. But then with COVID and everything, those conversations stopped. And I remember it was something that we were able to establish at that time with MyFalcon. But we haven't heard from these operators. There is no actually capacity in towers to provide for connectivity in our schools. However, this is an issue for some parents. They see it as a safety issue for their children. And this parent, Ms. Morton, actually asked me to bring this to the committee. I can go in more detail when we go to closed session. I believe that a letter to the Public Service Commission will be probably sufficient to kind of alert the government monitoring entity about the lack of connectivity in areas like Greenburgh in general, because we're in the middle of the woods. And maybe something happens, maybe some activity will happen, and we can actually have the conversation with the LTE and the ISP providers for this connectivity. It's outside the actual responsibility of the district and the district-owned devices, but I believe that is a valid question. And the parent actually shared with me about 3 questions about this, and I would like to share with the committee. New
Thank
business.
Thank you. Trustee Val?
I'm unmuted. Sorry, just going back, I know it's a closed session topic, but what I'm going to ask is not going back to the district-wide school safety plan. I know last year you guys approved it in February, and it's supposed to be approved every September. And this summer, I think we said, because we just approved it in February, we don't need to approve it in September. I'm just wondering, are we always going to stay on that late cycle, or when will we catch up?
If I may, Dr. Iverson, I have the answer for that. We are catching up on the timeline. The schools already start sending their school-based plans. The district-wide plan is the one that needs the input from that larger body, task force, or committee. And I know we're going to have that conversation in our closed session, but it's a process. In the school buildings already finished whatever they have to do. So we're caught up on that part. We just need to provide for that other step. So we're going to be delayed probably about a couple of weeks from the deadline that was established by SED, not multiple months like it happened in the past. So I got to give credit to our central administration. They are jumping on this, and we just need you, because it has to be approved by the board as well.
Right.
So, whatever is prepared by the central administration needs to be submitted to the board, needs to be published. And this is all public information because it's what is available in SED to everybody. But that's what I'm stating.
And I'll just recommend that next year, because our policy says it has to be adopted by September 1st, but it needs a public hearing 30 days prior, we probably should just put this on the calendar for the 22-23 school year to be done in July,
Yes.
July or August. So it's going to put that plug in now. Thank
I
you.
agree. I agree. Definitely, yes.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right, so that said, for the public viewing community, at this point, we're gonna go ahead and go into closed session. We're really not gonna talk about anything else when we come back out of closed session. We're basically just gonna adjourn the meeting. So I just wanted to be respectful of your time and thank you for coming to our meeting today. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
To discuss matters pertaining to school safety?
Yes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Laser, can you please